probably told myself, like, I can't be okay if I'm tired.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, I can't be at peace unless my body's 100%.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah. Look, the mind's tricky. It'll use any doorway it can to try and pull you down into a lower frequency, so to speak. You know, Hawkins used to say, Dr. Hawkins, one of the spiritual teachers I follow, he would say, the mind is the ego. So he doesn't even separate the two. Like, you know, some people say, oh, it's the ego. So the mind is the ego. So if the mind's saying, oh, my ear hurts and I can't be good because of this, then, you know, there's a certain trick that's going on. Meaning the problem with thought forms is that they sound like us. Meaning if you've energized a negative thought, right? An anger or a fear or whatever, it speaks to you in your own voice. So the way Daskalos, my Christian teacher from Cyprus, would teach it was that we create angelic thought forms and demonic thought forms. We create positive thought forms and we create negative thought forms. And we imbue them with our energy, our chi, our vitality, right? And which is what gives them the voice of us. So when you complain for whatever reason, whether it's from a person or whether it's from an ailment or whatever, you're complaining in your own voice. Does that make sense? So you align with it and go, oh. So the question becomes, okay, how do I gain that same level of perspective? And yes, we can start with responsibility. We can say, I'm tired because I feel tired. My ear hurts because, you know, because of me. What is that has created that? And that gives you some ability to start to shift things. Meaning, if you take responsibility for something, you're ready to start taking action to resolve it, right? So one part is responsibility, yes, but I get where you're coming from when it's an ailment. It seems like, you know, it's more useful to just use a layer of observation, meaning observing the actual ailment itself so that you don't get caught in the downward spiral. Because, I mean, you've been in these teachings for us. You're aware that, you know, at the higher frequencies of consciousness, we have the healing frequencies. I mean, you've seen this before? Yeah? Okay, cool. So unconditional love, you know, 540 is where the true healing energy activates. And that's why the Christ was teaching us to be unconditionally loving, so that we heal the wounds within ourselves. So, you know, the game would be more so, how do I take responsibility and observe what's happening in this moment so I can align with healing frequency? Because I'm assuming you don't want to continue to be tired and in pain, right? So, you know, we have to kind of map it out. Like, okay, right now I'm feeling pain. I'm feeling it difficult to take responsibility for this pain because I didn't get much sleep and because my ear fucking hurts and this ear thing's been happening for a while, right? But getting caught in, you know, complaint and frustration is coming down into a level of, anger and desire. Because frustration is a form of anger. Yeah, it's like, cause you, and wanting it to be another way is a form of desire. But the problem is that the frequencies aren't supportive of releasing and transcending the pain, right? Or even getting, the interesting thing is that what I've observed in my own experience, because, like, you know, in martial arts you get injuries, you know, here and there. You know, at first I'd get injuries and they'd be, oh fuck, and it'd be a big deal. But then eventually they become like, you can live with the pains being there, so you just become more observant of it. So I think as a martial artist, you kind of get used to pains being there, so they're less of a problem, they're more of just, oh, it's just there. So what happens over time is that as you start to observe the pain, you no longer identify with it, and you can kind of ride it as opposed to get caught in it physically. But also, it's often the idea of it which is more painful than itself, because really it's a sensation. See what I'm getting at? Like, it's a sensation. That's really what it is. But the label of pain from your mind is what triggers it off to make it unpleasant. Because, I mean, if you could, there are some people that enjoy that, right? So you know what I mean? Like, some people, so the same experience, maybe they have someone sticking I don't know, scratching them off or whatever. Or when, you know, tattoos, right? Yeah. You get the pain and you're like, ooh. Yeah. You like it, but you don't like it. You know, there's a difference to it, right? Yeah, it's horrible, but you kind of like it. But anyway, what am I getting at? The mechanism of responsibility is important, regardless of whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or, you know, triggered via perspective on someone else. So responsibility, yes, is still important, but I do believe a attuning to a level of observation will help you to take yourself out of the frustrations and judgments around it, right? And one of the simplest ways to use observation that I've used and that I still use is talking about oneself in third person. So I'll say, John thinks, or John's looking at this pain, John's not very happy about this pain. And already by saying it in that way, you start to create a level of observation. So that would be one tool I'd suggest. And then from observation, you've got to come back to your spiritual intention, Because it's only at the levels of love and above that you are actually going to get that natural healing quality activated, right? Adonai Elohim. That's how we say God in Hebrew. That's right. Yeah. He's Jewish, so yeah. I try to speak in Hebrew. You can speak Hebrew, right? That's so cool. I'd love to speak Hebrew one day. Adonai. So yeah, that'd be, yes, take responsibility, 100%. Try to get into a layer of observation, which is like a self-awareness. Simple tool is, Mike, saying Mike instead of I in your own mind, so that you catch the thought form as opposed to get stuck in it. Other ways to self-observe is to place yourself. This is one that I learned when I was like 18, is place yourself in the corner of the room. So like there's a corner of the room there. Put your attention over there like you're watching yourself. That's one layer of another way to observe, like you're watching yourself. But another trick with self-observation is that you imagine in the corner it's Christ watching you, or Moses watching you, or whatever. And if you've got them watching you there, it's like you start to behave a little better firstly, and it reminds you of an uplifting spiritual vibration, right? So yeah, because at the end of the day, Mike, you want to heal it, right? We want to heal, right? And unconditional love is the healing frequency, right? So it's how do you get back into vibrational harmony with that? Okay, one other thing you can have in mind is, okay, our Kung Fu tool. What's our Kung Fu tool? We center in our intention. We put our focus in our central column, and we bring to our mind whatever your spiritual intention might be. What is it, if you don't mind me asking? Unconditional love. Oh, perfect. Okay, great. That makes it easy. That is your spiritual unconditional love. Okay, good. So you just place your focus there and start, because what you focus on tends to expand, right? So, it's all really just triggers to help you to get back into alignment. Responsibility helps you, because when you're blaming, complaining, you're below. You're below integrity. You have given your power as, an infinite being, right? We literally have life force running through us, right? You've given that power off to some external circumstance or physical or other person, right? So as soon as you take responsibility, you shift to the baseline of 200, and now your energy shifts into power. Pardon me. So automatically you start to get an upward frequency. From here, you can have a greater layer of observation, and then remember your spiritual intention. Bring your focus into your center and think, okay, unconditional lovingness, right? And automatically you already are starting to feel better in your center now, right? Exactly. Because of the point of focus, right? So, yeah, we can always break down our Kung Fu practice into very simple terms. You look at the yin yang, you think, okay, intention and attention. So what is my intention? Unconditional love, okay? And what's the other part? Surrender, letting go. Intention and surrender, alignment and letting go. That's it. Like, it always kind of falls into those categories, right? And alignment is really responsibility, observation, like we just spoke about. And then the pain is where you place into the surrender piece. Does that help?
A lot.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how it always comes back to the same mechanism? Like, it's like, fuck, he's talking about intention and surrender again.
As you're saying that, even talking about spiritual intention, it was like in the background, the atmosphere changed. And even though the physical stuff is still there, it's not all there was anymore.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a little ripple in a lake, whereas before it just felt like the only thing there was the ripple, and all my attention was on it, and it just kind of sucked me in, and it felt like that broader bit, I wasn't in touch with it.
Yes, yeah, 100%. That's another way to kind of describe that is content versus context. Yeah, to bring the mind to the context of the situation, and that, if you consciously focus on the context, it tends to dissipate whatever tensions there are on that small thing that you're focused on. Because let's be kind of mathematical about it. If you think about the little thing that you're worrying about, right, and then you measure that across space and time, it's pretty insignificant. Infinite or billions of years before us, and infinite or billions of years after us, or maybe even trillions, probably. And I'm worried about Noah being a little fuck or whatever it is. Like some minor thing. And he's not a little fuck, but you get the idea. Yeah. Yeah, and spiritual intention, you got to remember the whole point of spiritual intention is to put the mind on the spirit, meaning God, the absolute, the universe, call it what you want, and in doing so, that automatically eases things because you remember that what your source is. Meaning, there's a saying that goes, God doesn't need me, I need God, in the sense that us thinking about him or not thinking about him doesn't mean that it's going to collapse. Like the world will continue on with the life force of the supreme being, right? But when we think about that, automatically you start to get a sense of and the spiritual intention is the kind of the guiding post for that. Meaning, when you think of unconditional love, for example, and you are focused on it, you notice that something expands within you. There's a sense of ease, a sense of connection, a sense of flow of love that starts to radiate. And the way that it's described is that you're facing the sun now, you're facing God, you're looking in the same direction as God, right? So in that you feel, but then when you start, hating, whether it's your ear pain or whether it's a person, right? You feel a sense of separation. You don't feel good because you're looking away from God. God's not agreeing with you now. He's being hateful. He's not going to. There's no chance that he's going to actually agree. He's not going to. Yes, I hate them too. They suck as well. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's why it feels good when you're in alignment, because you're in alignment with your true sense of self. Yeah. Very good. So in summary, responsibility still applies. Because you're responsible. You may, if someone out of nowhere comes up and hits you in the back of the head with an axe, then sure, there may be a level of, I'm not responsible for them hitting me with an axe, right? But, you did put yourself in that place, firstly, and secondly, you're responsible for the way you perceive it. That's kind of where you can attach the responsibility. Like how you perceive the pain is your responsibility. You can't give that away to Ace or me or to Violet. You see what I'm getting at? So responsibility still plays a role. Layering it with observation and then getting back into alignment is the game. And if you read Healing and Recovery by Hawkins, have you read Healing and Recovery? Yeah, he goes through like all these different ailments, and essentially that's the game. It's like, how do I take responsibility for this ailment, regardless of what it might be, and how do I get back into the vibration of unconditional love so I can naturally be in a healing frequency? The way we're kind of programmed as a culture is that, like, you have your goals and then or whatever your things you want, and then you work hard to achieve the goal, you put your attention and you make it happen, right? So the kind of Eastern philosophy of kind of allowing, surrendering, flowing is kind of difficult for the Western mind, because like we're supposed to wrestle the world to our will and make it happen, make it happen, get it done, grind, hustle, all these, the cultural Western mindset, right? The nose to the grindstone kind of philosophy. But the thing is that it's actually counterproductive in a way, because it's not necessarily the flow of life. I mean, like you look at a tree, right, and it's not grinding, it's not hustling. It's right there. You see, it's just growing naturally. I remember I was at my master's house, and he was teaching us how to move energy through our system, how to rise energy through our center. And there was these like mirrors on the wall, and there was a section in the middle where there was no mirror. So it was like prime real estate, because when you're training for 6 hours straight and you're looking at yourself in the mirror, it can be a bit like distracting. You know what I mean? So I'd picked this spot where there's no mirror, and I was standing doing it for him. It was at the beginning of his session, so there was hardly anyone there. He was in the back corner, and he was actually looking at a plant just like that one, right? And he was looking at the base of the flower and then looking up through the stem to the top, looking at the base of the flower and looking up to the tip of the top, and then he'd look over at me in the reflection and then look back to the base. And he kept doing that a few times, like, oh, wait a second, he's trying to tell me something. So in that moment, I had a sense of attunement with what he was saying, which is he wanted my spine, because we were working that few months on rising energy through the spine. He wanted me to be like that flower. So that the flower takes energy from the soil, goes, and then the water from the soil goes up through the stem to the flower, right? So I just kind of tried to attune to that, and it felt and I started to feel this rise of energy through my center. It was a sense of ease. It was like, whoa, it was like, there was no force involved, because we all really wanted to do it, because that's kind of like a part of the way to generate power, is to have a good flow of energy through your center. So I think, in that moment I realized it wasn't about forcing it. It was about alignment with that natural flow within myself. And what triggered it was my point of focus and the way I was focused. Meaning I was focused on my center, but in a natural way. I was just looking at it naturally with my mind, as opposed to, I really want this to happen. Do you see what I'm getting at? So alignment becomes focusing one's attention with the kind of the glasses of your intention. So what I mean is that there's something or there's some vibrational quality or some emotion that you want most in your life, whether that's joy, love, harmony, peace, prosperity, freedom, and they can evolve and change, but everyone has that. And I know that for a fact, because I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I sit down with people, I get to know them, as you both know, because I probably sat with both of you when you first, right? And then I find out what you're looking for, and the person will say, I want to be better at fighting, or I want more confidence, or whatever it might be. But then if you ask enough questions, it'll always come down to, I want to feel, it's some emotional condition they're looking for. Like, I want to be more peaceful. I want to be more proud of myself. I want to be more confident I want more courage. There's always something emotional they're looking for. It's, even if they say, oh, I want a girlfriend, right? And say, okay, why is that? Because I want to feel loved. You see, there's always some emotional thing. So what am I getting at? Looking at your life from the perspective of your intention, and then allowing and surrendering everything that arises to just release, is the kind of mindset we use to express our potential. Okay. So I'm trying to make it simple. The yang focus, which we normally think of, okay, I want to achieve that goal. I'm going to get the job, so I'm going to put in 100 applications. Rather than using it in the physical world, we use the yang intention on our spiritual world. So love, or unconditional love, or peace, or joy, or prosperity, or freedom, whatever the focus is that you keep your mind rested on that, right? And what you'll notice is that your emotions will start to feel a bit better or expanded. And then what that does, it shows you the energies or emotions that need to be surrendered. So the stresses, the worries, the fears, the doubts, right? So then once again, it comes back to this equation of intention and surrender. Yeah. What is your intention? Perhaps it's prosperity and freedom, for example. And when you think of prosperity and freedom, that gives you a certain feeling quality. So you want to keep your mind softly focused on that feeling quality of prosperity and freedom. Even if you may not have it in your hands yet, so to speak, it's a condition, it's an energy which you can hold. We all can feel any emotion we want any moment. Like, that's the quality of being human. And we do that by attention, what you think about. Right? So you bring it into your attention something which feels prosperous and free, for example, or unconditionally loving, and you softly hold that in mind, and that allows that feeling to be there. But what will happen naturally is something that is blocking that from truly aligning with your being, with all of your centers, will come up. So the subconscious will show you, oh, there's a fear here, or a stress here, or a subconscious program that I'm not worthy, or whatever it is, will come up to the surface. And that's where we apply surrender. That's where we apply letting go. That's where we apply that, the kind of healing balm of release, right? So I know I'm using a lot of words, but it's actually very simple. Focus on your spiritual intention and allow that feeling to cultivate in yourself. So you really start to feel it on a day-to-day basis. Because the way we are internally is reflected externally. If you want to know what your internal vibration is like, look at your life right now. Full stop. That's what your vibration is. It's not hard. People like to blame others. This person betrayed me, so that's why my life is that way. No. You have betrayal in you that attracted them to betray you. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's where the responsibility piece comes in. So simply put, we focus our mind on our spiritual intention, and then as the mental, emotional, and programmatic beliefs come up that are blocking that, whatever's blocking prosperity, freedom, or love, will come up to the surface, and you can say, oh, and what will happen normally is you go, oh, fuck, I don't like that. Oh, shit, I'm going to push that away and have a beer. Or, you know what I mean? So the normal reaction in Western culture is suppression and repression. You know, and I'm very skillful at that. Like I've spent, I mean, like, you know, I had a very, very powerful experience in that my father, when I was younger, he had a secret family, and I found out when I was 13. So I found out and I confronted him, and I had this huge betrayal and anger that came up, and because I didn't know how to deal with it, I suppressed it and repressed it, you know, drugs, violence, whatever, right? And, you know, I've gradually released it over the last 30 plus years, you know. Even till recently, I feel like I released another chunk of it. Like, I think it feels like it was the final stack. It feels like it was the final piece of it. But what am I getting at? Because I'd set my spiritual intention for unconditional love, and that allowed the things that were in the way, the betrayal, the resentment, the hatred, the fear, the doubt, the unworthiness, all to come up to be surrendered. So it really is a process. It really is a process, but it's a simple one. Attention, intention, love, joy, peace, prosperity, freedom, oneness, wholeness. Surrender, letting go. Any vibrational discord that arises because of my intention to rise. Because if you don't have an intention to rise, then you'll just happily stay in the lower frequencies and you'll just live there. Like we all know people that are just, you know, they're just gronks. They love being gronks and they just stay in gronkland. Do you know what I mean?